Hello, everyone. Welcome to Drop Pod. I am your host, Aegis. It has been a while, and I'm sorry. I really am. What you guys are about to listen to is a man about to bomb for quite possibly 40 minutes to an hour. Let's find out. I wanted to talk about philosophy, I guess. And since this is a solo episode, I figured it would be fitting. I am just going to completely gloss over the last 2 weeks. I didn't put those episodes out as I thought it would be better due to the subject matter of those two episodes that I recorded, which were both Destiny related. I figured I would just put those out as videos instead of an actual podcast. We still have a special guest on the way too. I don't know why it's so special. I mean, everybody that comes on the show is special in their own way. Anyway, welcome everybody. Thank you for tuning in, listening. Or maybe you're listening to this episode again. Cheeky. I'm actually recording this episode a day earlier than I normally would. I usually reserve Saturdays for, this is a little inside the podcaster studio here, but I usually record these episodes on Saturday. I'm actually recording this episode a day earlier than I normally would be due to a special event in Destiny 2. Don't worry, I'm not going to talk about Destiny 2 in length, but there's an event going on in Destiny 2 on Saturday, where a lot of people are going to be logging into the game to tackle their world first attempt or their day one attempt at Vaults of Glass. This is a returning raid from Destiny 1, but a lot of Destiny 2 players, myself included, that never had a chance of playing the original will have their opportunity to play it now. So I will be running that. Some of you might have popped into the stream. Some of you might have actually been playing with me during this time. I guess a little foreshadowing. Congratulations to anybody that attempted the run, as this will be released a couple of days after the fact. Congratulations to everybody that attempted. Congratulations to everybody that got some of the roles that they wanted. A lot of the cool exotics to drop from the raid, cool emblems, cool shaders. Congratulations to those teams that had participated in the event. But I guess there's enough stalling. I wanted to talk about philosophy tonight, and I guess just more on what's on my mind rather than what I'm seeing on the news and everything else that's going on. I wanted to talk about just staying positive in, I guess, a climate that doesn't really care for your positivity. I mean, a lot of people are still trapped in their homes. There's a lot of people still returning to their way of life, which is very good, and I'm glad, especially living in a town like this where we need your custom. We need people to show up. There are some things that I feel people take for granted in this pursuit of happiness. Definitely family. And I'm saying this because I do this to a degree. And don't judge me too heavily. I feel like a lot of us do this, but as of now, I'm living on my own again. Got an apartment down at a pretty nice part of Vegas. I did stay with my grandfolks during the duration of the pandemic, just so I would be closer to my job, and also just due to the climate the way it was just easier on me. And so I stayed with my folks. After the fact, I haven't really been keeping up as much as I should. I would say, I would tell myself anyway, I'll just go visit them tomorrow. And the problem with being a gaming personality these days is that you kind of spend your time just working on whatever comes to mind. So later in the day would come, and then I'd find myself not even going. And I feel bad. One, because you should obviously, your grandparents aren't going to be around forever. So you have to make sure that you are constantly in check, especially in my age. Shout outs to everyone with grandparents out there. Be sure to keep in contact and keep in touch. And I feel like I should just be, calling them more. And in fact, I'm just going to make the effort to do so. The fact that I even have to say effort is bad enough as is, but that's where I'm at. Things like calling my sister, even, it's like stuff I should be doing regularly, and I take that for granted. But I was kind of meditating on that a little bit a couple of nights ago, and I was like, man, why do I not do this? What is that important to where I'm not keeping in touch with my family? It's not like anybody in my family really has a falling out with me or anything. I really should just be keeping up with people. I think I do owe this a lot to the way that I'm an introvert. You won't find me in a club primarily because I can't drink, but two, it's just not my scene. No parties. I used to be the type of guy that would decline any invitation that was given. Not to be an alpha or a chat or whatever, but just because, yeah, that's not my speed. I'd rather just go home, if I'm being honest. Not that you weren't going to throw a rager or whatever, but it's just not for me. But, you do take these things for granted. It's not often that you get to see your folks, especially once you move out. Just keep up with them. What's the problem? On top of that, I feel like I should just be keeping up with people in general, right? I feel like there are a lot of friends in my circle that I just kind of neglect, which is an awful term to use, but I feel like that is the case. I feel like there are certain people out there that I just kind of I don't really interact too much, primarily because I don't have much to say. It's not like you need to call somebody every day to validate your relationship with them, but it is good to, once in a blue moon at least, contact them to, hey, I'm still thinking of you out there in the old wild, as it were. But there's that. Keep in contact with your friends, keep your family close. There was somebody within the Hell Jumper Discord that talked to me about a certain family member that they weren't really keeping in touch with. I'm assuming that and I didn't want to pry too deeply, but I'm assuming that they just had a falling out, which it's a hard thing to go through. Especially if the family member is like your immediate family, right? This could be your father, mother, somebody that's just in close to relation to you. And it sucks that, you don't keep in contact or don't keep in touch. I don't really keep in contact with my mother, which is, it's awful, to say the least. My mom checked out when I was born, and even though I never held a grudge all of those years, I probably should call her. I think she does deserve to know, at least what's going on. Your son at almost his mid-20s is still kicking it. Another thing, some of you tell me that I'm a little too complacent, which I agree. I remember that I had said to somebody in the Hell Jumper voice call that, I'm okay with the amount of money or even the amount of support that I get during streams. I think I just owe that to my upbringing, though. I said in a previous episode that I live without want, and I've continued to do so. I can pay for what I need to pay for, and as long as I can eat, that's I'm solid. I have everything that I need. I just need to focus on myself, make sure that I get to where I need to go, make sure that I pay what I'm supposed to be paying. And I grew up basically with nothing really. Um, I had a pretty good, childhood, but then, things kind of deteriorate after a while. Uh, my dad being a single father, you do have to downsize after a while. I was brought in to a pretty good part of Vegas known as Summerlin, which is one of the more well to do areas of the city. Once we had moved away from Summerlin, there were some fallow years, and then you would bounce back, then you would go through some bad ruts, bounce back, and you had to continue to do so. All the while you just kind of accept what you have. And when you live a life like that, you kind of just appreciate literally what you have. You appreciate that you can't have everything, or that, you can live without certain things. It's cool when you end up getting them later. And I'm definitely a glutton towards materialism at this point in my life. I'll see some shiny new thing and think, wow, I could really use that at this point in my life where, you can kind of spend a little bit. But it wasn't until, I would start working and start doing all of this other stuff that I would finally start being able to pay my way forward, let alone other people's. But it was through going through those early trials in my life where I kind of figured, yeah, I can make do without a lot of stuff. And it made me appreciate just being able to live with what you have. So if I do seem complacent, that's just literally how it is. I live with that one and will continue to do so. Unless it's video games, of course, in which case I will spurg out. But that's a different case altogether. I'm appreciative of everybody that drops by, especially where it's concerning Twitch and Discord. I appreciate all of the lovely messages that I get from people. Sorry, I meant Twitch and Facebook, not Discord. I see a lot of you on Discord, and I appreciate your company there too, but I meant Facebook. I'll get a really kind message from somebody on Facebook that direct messages me and, tells me that they love the stuff that I do, and it's heartwarming to see because I don't really know what I'm doing. A good chunk of the time I don't know what I'm doing. But it is heartwarming to see when somebody does end up messaging me, tells me how much they love the stuff. Some of you on Twitch, even though some of you out there will rip me. And I'm like, wow, I'm really putting up with that, but I know it's in jest. That's something I should probably take care of. Is that I don't really exude much emotion. I don't really need to tell most of you that actually watch me on stream. But I'm very, I guess, dry in my tone, right? I'm sardonic when it comes to my humor, but I do maintain to have fun with what I do. But I wish I did exude a little more out of it, which I genuinely don't know how to do that. Some of you out there, actually, I shouldn't say you, dear listener, but some of you out there, you might hear the phrase every once in a while, be sure to smile, right? I mean, there's a reason why people tell you that. Because, if you just learn this one human quality, you will be set for the rest of your life. I have somehow managed on my 2 decades on this earth to completely forego that. I'm not trying to be an edgelord either. If you see me on stream, I don't know. I don't crack smiles. And it sucks because you might get a message every now and again. It's like, man, you don't look too happy. And it's like, I am. I really am. Living better now than I ever have. And I'm doing what I love doing, which is just being able to play video games, hang around, and just be a personality for others to kind of listen to and hopefully learn something from, which is one of my de facto goals. But if I would exude some of that, I don't know, exude some of that in terms of personality, excuse me, I probably would be doing a lot better. But at the same time, I feel like a lot of people do watch me just due to me being chill, and I try to be entertaining during that. I really do. I shouldn't say try, because it is one of my pet peeves. I just don't like using the word, because I've always said that try is a word that entertains doubt. And when you entertain doubt, it's just one of those phrases that basically aligns itself with, well, I could do this, or maybe I could do this, rather than you just doing it. And I've always hated using try, but sometimes it's like the only word that describes what you're doing the best. There's trying to set time aside for Drop Pod, a weekly podcast that I do. And then there's just not doing it, even though I should be doing it weekly. I'm appreciative of people coming by to tell me that they enjoyed Drop Pod, and I wish I could do more for the people that tell me, oh, this should be on Spotify. And I do get messages from some of you saying that, oh, well, I would absolutely listen to this, but if it was on Spotify, that would be huge. I'm still in the works on that. I don't have anything concrete just yet. I don't know why I'm talking about this literally almost 20 episodes in already. I didn't even think I'd make it this far in, if I'm being realistic. But that's something I owe to perseverance. I talked in a previous episode about starting your own Twitch, that you should attempt to write things down. Because when you have pen to paper and make something tangible or something physical to you, something that you can see, you can actually etch on it and revise it. Physically looking at it, you can actually start putting pen to paper and paper to action. It's a huge tool in just getting the ball moving, where you would otherwise have no plan of action. But I feel you need perseverance if you're planning on doing something like this, right? You have to have really thick skin. You'll get some nasty messages every now and again. I don't care who you are. Be the most beautiful woman to ever grace this earth. The most handsome man to have ever pierced the heavens. And yet, you'll get some awful, awful messages. It may not be towards looks. Could be towards your personality. Could be towards the way that you carry yourself. But you do need to persevere. Because, yeah, you will have some off days. But don't let those off days disparage you from doing what you want to do. And I'm not just applying this to streaming. I did use streaming as an example there, but I'm not just applying this to streaming. This applies to everything. You might get some nasty, nasty comments about your work ethic, or even in school. Then you need to find ways to either change that part of you if you feel something needs to be changed, or just take it on the chin and, well, I mean, man, you're an ass for saying that, but thank you. That's all you can really say, right? As a gaming personality, I do make a very conscious effort about the way that I portray myself, especially in games like Destiny, right? In Destiny, I play a lot of competitive, especially this season, so I've been kind of hard stuck inside of the competitive playlist. And I'll have a game where I feel like the game is way too close. And I might, and this has only happened once, and I think one, my attitude towards things, but two, I think just knowing that I am on camera and I know that one of the two ladies in my life, whether it be my girlfriend or my sister, if they're both watching, that's just a double whammy for me. But if either of these two ladies are watching, then I know I'm gonna hear about that shit later. Silently watching, always judging. But I did this once in a match, and I got frustrated because I felt like, man, I really shouldn't be losing against a team like this. I play way too well nowadays, or at least a lot better than I used to. And I remember I had slammed my desk in anger, and I remember somebody in the chat had said, "Please don't tap your desk in anger," and I had felt bad because that really was out of character for somebody like me to get that angry at a game of all things. But later on in the day, my sister had called me to tell me that she saw me do that, and I had felt like an absolute dunce. I'm like, man, you saw that? What'd you think? It was a weird thing to ask, but she was not very pleased. She was like, man, you're never wrathful. You're not a wrathful guy. So why do that? And she was correct. I'm not a wrathful person. So why did I do that? I asked myself that heavily after I was done with the day's activities, and I would meditate then. It's like, why did I? Why did I get upset? What's the point? The friends I was playing with during that game, they tried their absolute best. And again, I hate using the word, but so it goes. They played their absolute best. And I'm not saying this to blame them or be one of those. I came from Dota 2. And inside of Dota 2, we had this thing called the Dunning-Kruger effect, which is an actual psychological term to basically tell somebody that you're bad, like you are bad. And that's just a layman's way of putting it. Absolutely, it's a cognitive bias where people with limited knowledge or competence in a given practice greatly overestimate their own knowledge or competence in that particular subject or criteria. And they think that their performance is that of such a high level of their peers or people in general. Somebody will believe that they're so good at a game or at a certain aspect of a game where they do not recognize their own deficiencies or their lack of knowledge in that game or practice. In a game like Dota 2, it could be your lack of map knowledge, but you feel like your knowledge of the player or the character that you play as inside of Dota 2, there are many possible characters that you can choose to play as. You may think that your level of play with that one singular hero is so high, and you'll be surprised when somebody actually picks that hero that you play so often. You'll be surprised when somebody else picks that hero on the enemy team, and you think, "Oh, I know every in and out of this character. I'm just gonna dome this guy, make him think that he is such a loser. He is going to be sorry." And what you didn't realize was that the player on the enemy team that picked your character is a hell of a lot higher in the ELO bracket than you are. ELO is is a term that we use to judge skill in competitive games. This was only meant to be used in chess to determine a player's skill, but we now use it inside of competitive games to determine skill as well. Anyway, you'll go against this guy. He is so far the latter than you are. This is a guy that has spent countless hours more than you have at the game, but yet you think that you know everything about this hero because you had stayed on that hero from the day you were birthed up until the point where this guy had picked the same hero that you play against you. And he makes you feel totally dumb because of the way that he plays it compared to the way that you have always played it. And that's basically what Dunning-Kruger is. It's just a way of saying, man, this guy is bad, but yet he thinks that he is on such a high level, or recognizes that he is on such a high level, that he doesn't even see his own deficiencies in the criteria. And that is something that I am always conscious of. It's like, man, do I exude that sort of ego where I feel like I'm the best ever? It's like, I hope not. If I do, please stop me. I don't attempt to know anything. I play video games literally for a living. I don't attempt to think, say, or even have the testicular fortitude to acknowledge that I think I'm better than anybody else. But again, I had pondered the same question. Why did I get mad? Why did I slam my desk? And she had said something to me that I had basically told everybody else, is that I am not a wrathful person. So why did I do any of that? And I really didn't have an answer. Is it because I felt like I was that good that I shouldn't have lost a match in a video game? Is it because I play that game so much that I feel as though I should be at a different level of play than where I am now? And I forgot something that was very crucial during my crusade at that point in time. Is that literally it's just a game. I want to talk more about the Dunning-Kruger effect when I can, because it's one of those things I think everybody should be aware of. I feel a lot of people are unaware of their own competence. And if you can't judge that on yourself, you're going to run into a problem later down the road where you will meet somebody that is of a higher pedigree in terms of your criteria, whatever that may be, whether it's cooking, literally video games, art, crafts. It could go anywhere. But let's pick cooking, you know. You might think that you make some of the best spaghetti this side of the ecosystem. And all of a sudden, chef, you can't even pronounce his name, it's so French, comes around and he makes the best spaghetti this side of the solar system. You are like, whoa. This guy put peppers in the shit. It tastes good, man. I don't do that. I just put pasta sauce inside of it. I chop up some meat. I cook some spaghetti and I mix it all up. This guy doesn't do any of that. He's over there making the spaghetti sauce by hand. I don't even do that. I just buy ragu from Le Groceria and I call it a day. But that's Dunning-Kruger right there. You felt like you were the best spaghetti chef on planet Earth, and you're not. Because chef, I can't even pronounce his name, it's so French, came over there and slapped your shit with spaghetti, of course. But yeah, I want to talk about that at some point, because it really is an episode of its own. So I do want to cover that. And I think it will help some of you. Sorry, I had a hair on my mice, or my my mic. Um, but yeah, I need to recognize that literally it is just a game, or at least I'm conscious enough of my surrounding that I do need to be more chill. And that's another thing. I know a lot of people out there do watch me due to the fact that I am a chill, personality. There are some times when I go off the walls. I don't know if it's just my new environment. I'm now uh, living in an apartment again, and I can kind of do my own thing. But I'm never bashful, or never I never get too far out there, if you guys know what I mean. Like, you might have somebody that's on the mic inside of your games, and he's like, man, this guy is unhinged. You might say something or do certain things on the while you're on call with him. He's like, man, this guy that I'm playing with right now, I don't know about him. Uh, I feel like I don't feel like I'm unhinged, but I do feel like, man, I do get a little wild out there sometimes. If I hit the cranberry juice a little too hard, hit the cranberry juice a little too hard, I start acting up a little bit. Cranberry juice is my drink of choice on stream, packed very high with vitamin C, a lot of antioxidants, and I drink it a lot on stream because it's just good for you. And I'm glad that some of you tell me that you drink it after watching me drink loads of cranberry juice, because that's what I drink. I'll have my thermos set up on stream with water, as you do need to, as much juice as you take in, you need to take that much in with water. That is something that's always been true. So if you drink juice all day, you'll feel a lot better if you cut some water in there too. Some folks actually mix their water with their juice, which is good. It waters down the juice, of course, but that's good because you are supposed to take a lot more water in. Anyway, I just feel like I do need to slow it down, which is something that I typically say, but I mean it. It's like I need to slow it down. It's not good to constantly be at a 10, especially while streaming. I classify myself as like an endurance streamer, which means somebody that will stream for like a long period of time, where you can't keep up that level of engagement the entire time you're streaming, whether it's 6 hours that you're streaming. And I say this now going into Saturday, where I'll be streaming basically all day due to the Vaults of Glass raid that people will be running instead of Destiny 2. I'll be basically streaming that all day. Those of you that want to catch that stream, you will be able to catch that in full. I will save that stream, catch it on twitch.tv/Aegis_CXVII. Bonus points if you can tell me what CXVII stands for down below in the comments of the YouTube portion of the podcast. I don't know what I'm doing. In the grand scheme of things, I'm glad that nobody has told me, like, damn, Aegis, you've been on one lately. Which I'm glad. It's one of those things, though, right? It's like, somebody will make a YouTube video. Let's say it's like, it started out as an innocent prank, innocent prank on mom. But then you see how many people like that, or how many people got a reaction out of that. In my case, when I start taking things up to a 10, or I start ramping things up, I'll always start at like a 1 at the start of a stream, but then I'll ramp up because either more people were coming into the call, or I was getting a few laughs here and there, like I'm some sort of comedian. But in terms of this analogy, it starts as an innocent prank, and you saw that you were getting a lot more likes or a lot of comments. So you were like, okay, so how can I take this even further? And so then it escalates as like a grocery store prank, where you're pranking people that are parking the car or whatever. And you got a lot more reactions out of that. And then it just escalates further. and further where you're doing something so deplorable that you really shouldn't have even posted. In my case, stuff I really shouldn't even be saying or doing, yet I have. And here we are. Something else that I think is quite profound, and I think it took me a long time to kind of understand this, is that you really just need to just be yourself, right? It's going to take a lot of you, a lot more than just some guy on the internet to tell you to be yourself. I understand. But it's really that simple. I'm grateful for the people that, come into my life, and to those that stick around, I'm grateful to them. Even if it is, online friends. If I meet some new people through work or word of mouth, I'm grateful that they stick around. But you should wanna you should wanna make the effort to just find who you are, right? There's only so much I can say as, some guy you've never met on the internet. I'm trying to speak of my own life experiences throughout this episode. But I want people to, or at least I wish more people would. I guess that's a better way of saying that. I wish more people would try to find who they are, which is a hard thing to kind of tell somebody. It's not something that can immediately be spelled out for you or can immediately be pointed out to you with a sign or a click on Google Maps or whatever. It takes a lot of, soul searching really to find out who the hell you actually are. It takes a lot of ego trips where you fall flat, or somebody tells you just really have a kick for this. Like you just really know what you're doing when you're doing this, or whatever happens. And there are some of you within the Helljumper Discord where I'm just like, man, I didn't know you did that. I didn't even know you could write. But here you are writing poems. Or, oh, look at you. You actually write stories. Or you actually draw. I didn't know you could draw. And that right there is interesting. And for some of you out there, with a passion enough to actually turn that into like a career, or at least something that you could do as a hobby, it's like some of you could actually do some really cool stuff out there. It's just you have to convince yourself that that's what you want to do, or that's even who you are. Which is interesting seeing, a lot of you youngins out there still discovering, well, what is it that I really want to do later down the road? And it's cool when I see some of you out there that, I never knew that you could do some of the stuff that you guys are doing, especially in the Discord, where it's like, man, I didn't know you know how to use Blender. Like, when was this? Or man, this entire time, this guy was a bodybuilder, and I didn't even realize. Since when? Interesting stuff. One of the final things I want to bring up for the night is that I apologize. I apologize to you, dear viewer, dear listener, even. Dear viewer, if you're on the YouTube version of this. I do my due diligence, and I want to make a show where it's just easy to listen to, and people can kind of just vibe out, listen to this sort of thing on their way to work. That's always what this was meant to be as, was just like literally shoot the shit. Even if it's with myself, shoot the shit. I appreciate when somebody has something to say about an episode where it was like, oh, Aegis, when you had said this, I was like, oh, I got a journal and I started writing things down. I'm like, man, that's huge. I'm glad at least somebody heard that. It was actually taking what I said with at least a hint of salt before they take it down to the cellar, let it soak, dissolve. I'm at least glad that somebody will listen and kindly tell me as such. But I'm sorry, because I feel like I have neglected this show. at certain points. I said at the beginning, or at least I think I did. I don't even remember at this point. I made a note to say that this show I will bomb, or this episode rather, I will bomb this episode, meaning I will have an episode so emphatically bad that I don't think it will go well with what my current audience expects of this show. I wanted to talk philosophy with you guys, and I feel like at the end of this episode, I honestly do that. Bleh. I honestly do feel like I grew as an individual, which is pretentious to say, surely, but I do feel that way. And to bomb, I think it's like just one of those things where it's you got to do it in this field of internet culture. I say as I sigh. I honestly do. I feel like I bombed. It's not like it was one of the worst, but I do feel like I didn't do everything that I should have been doing for the past couple of weeks. I should have been, out of respect for my audience, I should have been a little more hasty with these uploads. But I cannot, in good conscience, put a episode out where I just talk about one game or one topic the entire damn time. So tonight I just wanted to speak my mind, talk philosophy. It's not what everybody expects, but this is the episode that comes out. And I appreciate when I do have the floor, so to speak, where it's a solo episode where I can just kind of one-on-one talk with you guys about, well, my thoughts. And I ask that if I had ever offered anything, if you had liked me at any point, if I had made you laugh once because I did a silly voice, or maybe I said something that got you rolling, or if I had offered you advice and you actually took it to heart, I ask that you don't judge me too heavily. Just listen. Listen and just take what I say with a hint of salt, because you never know. And like I say, I don't try to be anything. I don't claim to know nothing. I don't know nothing. All I know is how to get these dubs, due to the fact that this is a dub-only household. Some of you don't even know what a dub is. Let's keep it that way. No. I'm sorry, everybody. I think this is one of my longer solo episodes. Do I find it awkward to record a solo episode? I do not. I think it's good to be able to talk to yourself, at least in this regard. Not when you're out and about. Not when you are the person people are staring at 0200 and you're just yelling at yourself. I was going to do a bit here, but it's way too late in the night for all that. There's going to be a bit. There's going to be an attempt. I want you guys to just imagine some unhinged man, 0200, just yelling top of his lungs. How the mole people had came and taken everything away. That's the bit. And I didn't do it because I'm bombing. Something interesting that I find most is, at least since I've been doing this seriously for the past, I guess fairly year and a half now, is that a lot of you are very supportive, and I definitely appreciate that. And I have to say that every single time I get a chance. It's like telling the person that you love dearly that you love them, and I'm sure that they get tired of it, but you have to say it to them because they need to know. Same here. You guys need to know that I appreciate, well, all of you that show up to the streams or listen to the podcasts or even offer me ways to better the podcast, whether that is, voice recording or topics, or even offering yourself, not the way you're thinking of, but in terms of coming on the show. It's heartwarming. And I need to be able to say that every single time I get a chance. And like I say, I feel like I did neglect the show a little bit. This is supposed to be a show that I do weekly. And when I don't put out an episode, I feel like I failed a pretty good chunk of that week by not doing it, even though the recording takes not even half of my day to do, not even a quarter of my day to do, because this is literally just shoot the shit, come on the show, talk about whatever I talk about. Editing takes no longer than maybe an hour, 2 hours at most, depending on the length, and depending on if I had a guest. And by that point, I just have it scheduled, set. I put all of the tags in the video and all this other stuff, all this background nonsense that I do behind the scenes. And then I have it pushed out on a Monday. And that is supposed to take basically from Saturday to Sunday into Monday. And when I don't even do that, it's like, man, am I that lazy right now? Or, man, did I really have nothing better to talk about? But I'm still learning. And I'm glad that you guys have fastened yourself to this ride as you take it with me. So I thank you. More Drop Pod to come. Stay safe, everybody.